So today, I was doing some reading for a class I had to teach about some explosives, and I finally found this again. I should have had it somewhere, but it's explosives in demolition FM 3-34.214. It used to be FM 5-250. That's like the older ones, but this one's version's July 2007. So it just covers over like most. I think was the most current one I could find. There might be like a 2024 one. That's when I see a couple got updated, but it's all gonna be generally the same. This is still like probably the same from like the 1981 and the older 5-250. So yeah, it's just covering U.S. explosives and their use metrics. The numbers, the stats that you need to do for your calculations. But yeah, we'll start with this. So at the start, I'll just I'm not really going like section per section on this FM, but I think I'll just go over some parts. I wrote some initial notes, but I'm kind of still gonna wing it. I did like the first section where I think it's just an introduction to like if you don't know anything about explosives, at all. I think it'll help you have a good grasp, or just for you to like be bored. So it covers like there are always going to be a bunch of charts of like the numbers, the names, applications, the detonation velocity, RE factors, toxicity, and water resistance, because those are all things that matter, right? Because for example, certain charges, you think like, oh, it'll go boom, it'll do the thing you want it to do no matter what. This one goes boom, that one goes boom. It's not okay. There's how fast it explodes affects its usage and where it can be applied, and that correlates to its RE factor. So I guess honestly I should just start that the RE factor, right? So it's how do I explain it? RE factor is based off. It stands for, I think it's reactive explosive, but I'm not gonna lie to you. I don't remember. It's based off no Google relative effectiveness, right? It stands for relative effectiveness. And whenever we're referring to RE, it's always going to be in mind of 1.0, right? And that's only going to be in reference to TNT, right? TNT, which I think most people should have a good idea of. Like it's trinitrotoluene, I think. Spelled it a little fucked up, but and that's, if you care, here's the chemical code, C7H5N3O6, right? And that's everything. This is like the standard explosive we use for everything. That was used for everything. And every explosive's rated off compared to this number. So if it's less, wrong one. If it's less than 1, it's a pushing charge. If it's greater than 1, it's a cutting charge. So what this really means, honestly, I'm not even sure. But if it's lower, like 1 point, I think the common one is like 1.4, and then like the very common one for cutting is like 1.6. This explosive, the explosive with an RE factor of 0.4, can move. It's very good at moving things away. It's not gonna like cut them or break them, but these ones are primarily used to like what you traditionally think is like earth moving operations. Like, I don't know if you've ever seen the videos of like the mines where they put like explosives, boom, boom, boom. They set them off in tunnels to like collapse Earth and all that. That's what these charges are usually for. And then cutting charges is what you think. The way I see it, usually when there's I-beams, right? They're gonna be all together, right? And you can place higher RE charges, explosives, onto them in this like formation, and once you blow it, you'll cut through them. You'll actually force the I-beams to like tear apart from each other, and cutting them, right? So I think that's one of them. A foundational piece of explosives is always in relevance to this RE factor, because it kind of encapsulates what you're going to use it for. And then the other thing I think it's kind of important, but at the end of the day, it's for the higher ups to figure out, is the fume toxicity. Because a lot of these chemicals in the explosives are toxic. Like, for example, our first one that we're going to talk about, I'm pretty sure ammonium nitrate is toxic. Let me see. Here's a chart on it. Why the fuck? Yeah, ammonium nitrate. It's a dangerous it releases a dangerous fume. So a lot of times when you set off the charge, there'll be, along with the earth and the dust, there'll be remnants of the explosive that come up into the air. And it dictates how you have to weigh according to the environment, how fast you can go into the breach, right? Or like go back to your hole to inspect it or whatever, right? Because the air's toxic, There's no point getting people sick or just for breathing it if you just gotta wait a couple minutes to let the air disperse it. So again, ammonium nitrate. Let's start with that. This is an older kind of thing, right? Explosive. It's not, from what I've seen and from what I've dealt with, you don't really see this that often anymore. So it's NH4NO3 ammonia. I think I googled it. It's a salt of ammonia. It's a ammonium and nitric acid salt, right? And you will find this. It's more easily accessible, let's say, per se, but it's just not. It's too dangerous, and it's just not as effective as the newer explosives can be. So this stuff you see in fertilizer, right? Nitric fertilizers, and usually, I do have to say, it's where you see people making. It's a main component of like homemade explosives, right? Because you can get fertilizer with high amounts of nitrate, and you could refine it to ammonium nitrate to make explosives. Because its main point, from what I see, it's fertilizer and explosives. Okay, so, but the good thing about it, I do see, it is the least sensitive of all the explosives we employ, which is good, right? You would think that would be counterintuitive for explosives, that you would like it to be more volatile, but being less sensitive makes it easier to transport and to like manipulate, right? Because you don't know what's going to happen. You don't want it to, where you're setting them up, you get attacked and you get hit with your charge in your hand, and boom, it goes off. It's not likely to do that, right? And these require, because it's less sensitive, requires a booster charge. So let me show you from my experience with ammonium nitrate. Well, we'll go on and talk about cratering charges. We'll talk about a little bit of cratering charges. That's what they're mainly used for, right? Because the RE factor of ammonium nitrate, as I said, 4.2, right? So it's a pushing charge. So we're using for cratering operations. And for cratering operations, all you do, you get holes inside, right, the ground. You place your explosive It's not that big, but and then you cover it up, and like, here's the road, and then once you're set up, you set it off, boom, right, and you get a crater, on the road, because it pushed all the earth away. And so that's what it's mainly used for. What they used to be used for. But it released a lot of... The issue with it too is that it's extremely hydroscopic. So it observes a lot of humidity. So the shells, the containers, they're big metallic tubes that are about... I literally looked this up. About 43 pounds. Well, this may be the H6 version. But they're around 40, right? They're 40-pound ones. That's how much explosive energy they should have, theoretically. But these ones require, also the H6 version. The crater charges in general, right? They need booster charges. So the big top part of this container has another explosive for H6. It's probably like comp A3 or something. It'll be like a little more volatile explosive in this top section. And to set it off, ammonium nitrate ones, they'll have like a little indentation, well, not indentation, but like marking. You'll place a block of C4 here, and we'll talk about C4 here in a second. You'll place a block there, and det cord, we'll also talk about det cord. Well, honestly, it's not that much to it. It's just a cable. It's just a little plastic tube. Well, it's a cable, essentially, and it's filled with RDX, which is a very common... You'll hear my laptop, which stands for, I think it's a Royal Research Development Explosive, right? It's like the more modern explosive thing used after like World War II, I think. But it's filled with the powder inside of it. No, not RDX. It's this. It's PET, PETN. I'm pretty sure. Yes. RDX is in the blasting caps. So these connect, blah blah blah. So it's it's a really useful cable, right? When you set this off, the cable, this little powder chain inside, the entire, like, no matter how long you have it, blah blah blah, like, you have it connected, right? When you set this off, everything will go off at like once, right? Because this PET N, that's what I used to call it. It goes at 27,000 feet per second when it goes off. So for us, as long as it's not like this much, it's going to be instantaneous. So, and that's what it's going to be used primarily to set off other charges. You're going to connect them to it. I'll explain like the order of explosives in a second as well. So you have C4, and then it'll have like a little cable thing to hold a little bundle of a det cord 2. And this is technically dual priming it. So another concept we're introducing is dual priming. So let me erase this. So now you have a block of C4, and you have this det cord in here. So blah is connected, and this is connected. So you're gonna hit your TNT. Well, they're all connected to a shock tube. We'll talk about the thing now. I'm kind of scattered. I'm just kind of winging this, like what I know and what I've researched. So the det cord, right? This is all det cord, right? It'll go to a shock tube. It'll go to a shock tube. And a shock tube is essentially, it's just a plastic tube. Like this one's actually just plastic. Doesn't have an explosive in it. but it's transferring the shockwave from your MDI, which is, I think, military detonator initiators, military demolition initiator. I think that's what it means. So then, which your MDI, which can be like an M81 usually, stuff like that, right? So that it'll have a so it goes from your MDI, which has, it's a little, you've probably seen it before. I wish I'd taken one, but they kind of need it. It's a little thing, right? It'll have a pin. It's a green thing. You'll pull the pin, and then it'll have like an O-ring on top. And have you seen, like, you know how like in like the big TNT, you have to pull it down, or is it you push it down, right, to set off the I'm gonna put this away. Let's put this over here. I just gotta shut this one. I keep hearing it. Oh my. Back to it. Where was I? So yeah, you have the thing, right? Here, I could use this. It'll be like a cylinder, right? You have it, and you're ready to set it off. You'll be like, find the hole, find the hole, find the hole. Pull the ring, boom. That has a mini explosive charge inside of it. It'll go off, travel. It'll be heat and pressure, right? And here's another fundamental thing of explosives. They all are going to need heat and pressure together at once. And depending on each stage, it's different levels. So you provided MDIs can be electric and non-electric. Usually, I've had only main experience with non-electric, which is explosive, right? So you like, boom, set it off. Explosive goes off, travels the shock tube, the heat and pressure. It's minimal, but it's enough to set off the PEN-E in the det cord. Boom, hits your det cord connection. And usually it's like, I think it's I don't know if it's an adapter. You wrap it around. Oh, I know what it is. I think it hits a blasting cap. Or maybe not. Fuck, I'm trying to remember. I'm forgetting how to connect these. Well, fucking whatever, right? I haven't done like traditional thing. We always like kind of like fuck with it. But yeah, whatever. Explosive goes off here. I'm pretty sure blasting cap or whatever goes off, sets off the det cord. Now this instantaneously is, we usually for this, what I've been taught, you have your C4 block. I don't want to use this. So you've probably seen in movies, C4 blocks are like little things. In the military, they're wrapped in like green paper, essentially. But C4 is just like a white kind of Play-Doh thing. Imagine a really dry Play-Doh, essentially. It's a little brittle, but it's still like malleable. We've cut this open, and we've placed a usually it's a Yuli knot. There's different ways to do it, but you wrap your det cord right like this. If you really want to be anal about it, you could do like 3 Yuli knots inside of it, but sometimes 1 is enough, right? And then that's placed in between 2 of these blocks and then squished together, and then you tape all this together, right? And that's what it goes off. Or you could just Yuli knot on the TNT, on the C4, sorry. And I could go off, but we usually like, it's very bad. If you're out actually doing this, or if you're out training, it's very bad when the explosive doesn't go off when you want it to go off, okay? So we really want it to go off the first try. So this goes off, And then this sets off the booster, which is the explosive in here, which then sets off the ammonium nitrate, which is under it. And then all that together explodes, right? And in case this doesn't explode, we're also pulling this one as well, just to make sure it goes off, right? If this one fails, then we know something's wrong with the MDI or the det cord. Somewhere here the det cord broke, because the TNT is not going to fail. Not the TNT. C4 is not going to fail, right? So something here broke, or something here broke, or somewhere along the det cord, the powder train got broken. Like, you can actually, like, if you fuck with it too much, you can break the powder, and if you break enough powder, it won't like go explode all the way, but you'll see it, right? Like, oh, where did the cord stop? Is the cord gone? Then we know, okay, something happened here, or whatever way. It's a visual indicator we're a failure. So yeah, that's dual primed. That's a principle of dual prime explosives, right? And then here in pressure, explosives like C4. C4. You can like burn it, and it won't go off. It might like spark a little bit, but I think it sparks. Maybe it might be C3. No, but C4 won't explode with that. You can hit it with a hammer, and all that. That pressure won't cause it to explode. But you have to hit it with a lot of heat and pressure instantaneously at the same time. Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah. So if you were to, have it in a really hot sun, like 100 degrees Fahrenheit, whatever the fuck that is in Celsius, and then maybe like hit it really hard with a hammer, then maybe it might explode. Maybe. So that's why you have to be careful with that. So it's less quote unquote stable, but it's still pretty safe on its own. But that's why you need another explosive, the det cord, to create that environment to set it off. And so that's why you go from like a small explosive to a slightly bigger explosive to a bigger explosive to set off the big explosion, right? Go boom, 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 boom. Right? So that's all that I just said. It's probably a lot, but we can talk about CompC. Yeah, so let's talk about C4, actual C4. So it's composition C4. So the C stands for, it's the chemical cyclonite, which is the full name is cyclotrimethylene trinitramine, I think. Yeah. So that's the entire name. So that's why you shorten it to that. And that's just the name for RDX, by the way. Which is C5, CH, and 2, which is just that. But if you don't know, you don't know. So CompC, it's a composition, right? So it's a mixture of RDX. And the 4 stands for the 4th gen, right? It stands for the 4th version, because there used to be C1. There was a C2. I think, I want to say maybe the Second or First World War, around that time, but I don't remember. But you don't really see C2 too much, because the improved version came out very shortly after, so they just kind of skipped it in the history, right? It kind of goes to C3, because that's just an improved version. And that one, if you look at older movies or like depictions of this explosive, it's yellow. It's like a yellow brick, while C4, the modern day C4, is a white brick. But yeah, C4 is just composition cyclonite 4th gen, or RDX. And it's 91% RDX, and it's 9% non-explosive plasticizers. Let's spell this right. So it's like a bunch of kind of not polymers, but like it used to be cellulose and C3, but like a bunch of binders, right? So it's just not the chemical on its own, right? Because if it's just RDX, then you could just use RDX for it. But it's to make it malleable. This gives it the principle where it's like the Play-Doh kind of deal, and that gives it the advantage over TNT, ammonium nitrate, because they all have to be contained in a casing, right? You can't just put the actual explosive materials directly onto whatever you're looking to destroy. Because, I mean, we won't talk too much about it, but TNT, military TNT comes in little boxes, little rectangle boxes, while like traditional TNT comes in like little tubes. And then there's like different sizes of it, but it's a metal box. While these are little bricks of C4, right? These are TNT, right? And this, you can cut this up. You can cut it up whatever way you want and mold it. Well, there's still, like, you still have to make it kind of all connect together and make sure it all goes off. But you can do a lot more with it. You can shape it, right? Like if you need to cut a tube, you can put like, this is a standard thing. Like you cut it over, right? You wrap it around, make sure you put your deck cord on it, boom, it'll set it off. It's just, again, more malleable. And that's the very good thing with it. But the thing is, it doesn't do very good in it has a temperature range just like anything else, but it does lack in colder environments. It'll become very brittle, I think it becomes brittle. It at very least becomes less malleable in colder temperatures. Oh, I wrote it here. So it's effective in 70 degrees Fahrenheit to 170, and which is 21 Celsius to 76 Celsius. So these are the effective range temperatures for it. Because if you really, so you see, like, you can go under the temperature. It's kind of hard to reach the heat extremes of it, but you could for sure. You know, if you're working sub-zero environments, you'll probably have to work with something else. Yeah. And then you can talk about dynamite. There's different versions of dynamite. There's like the civilian version, like they use for like regular demolition. And there's a military version. Military version is like the civilian version is more like ammonium nitrate or nitroglycerin and stuff like that. While military one is 75% RDX, 50% like traditional dynamite, and then 10% desensitizers and plasticizers. And I think the plasticizer is just there so it can combine all together, I think. And it's about 60% as powerful in comparison to like commercial dynamite. But it's more stable and safer than it because there's usually not nitroglycerin in it. So, yeah, but I don't really see much of it used for it. And then I wrote a bunch of fucking dimensions there. Who cares? But yeah, that's how you use traditional. Those are like the main explosives you'll ever see. Granted, it always depends on like what's available. Like maybe you're in a different country and you gotta use their stuff, or you're in a civilian, you found like a stock, or you don't have the supply line to keep up with your explosives and stuff. So like, oops, we gotta use this now. Yeah, C4 also comes in like, it can come in like little strips, like long strips, and then you can cut them and you can put them down. But there's no point. Oh, there's also shape charges, which I talked about a little bit, but these are usually for made for, or for holes. So they're like boom boom, but there's still cool principles in them. So a shape charge is essentially it's an explosive that sends down that creates. I don't know if you've ever heard of a shape charge. Usually used against anti-tanks or anti-tank weapons. But let's say you put your blasting cap in here, right? This sets off a little booster, which then sets off this, which is usually, I think it's H6. Oh, there's for the US, there's 40-pound and 50-pound versions of these. This is a kind of a 50-pound one, 40-pound. So this is off this explosive, and there's a liner, right? So this right here, it's a material. For the 40-pound ones, I think it's copper. So it's a copper cone, essentially. And when this goes off, it'll force this cone to go inverted. And then it'll like keep getting smaller like that. It'll turn into like a spike and go straight through the ground, and it'll bore a hole. Or, you know, in the standoff. So this is a standoff, right? So it's important, right, for this process to occur, for it to transform into this projectile. It needs distance to get to its desired potential, right? Or like heat. I'm not exactly sure. There's a principle to it, but I think it's a common misconception on like how this actually works for a bunch of people. But they say it's like a super hot jet of copper that comes down to make the entry, but it just makes a hole. It makes a hole depending on how much explosives you put on it. And you could kind of make your own with other stuff. There's different versions with different materials. But yeah, that's a shape charge. And there's different, like, you got to think about what kind of terrain you're trying to penetrate, because it'll affect it. I remember reading there's a study by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers on like its effectiveness on permafrost and like ice, because like for ice, when you want to dictate how thick it is, you gotta cut a hole in it, and if you want to do that fast, the Army thought, let's just fucking use a shape charge and blow a hole through it, right, to dictate how thick it is. And then there's like a bunch of research on how to do that and how they're tests on that, stuff like that. And because explosives to dig like trenches and the craters and stuff is very important, because like for example in Ukraine, right, you know, you have your ground and now it's all frozen, you know, which I don't know if you guys have ever dug into permafrost or even just frozen ground. It's very fucking difficult. It just makes it's completely different from like, you know, haying, shoveling and stuff like that. So it's very important to use and understand how you can employ explosives to create trenches and stuff like that, or just craters, because that matters. Labor matters. How tight your guys happens, because it's already winter, right? Now you want them to dig in permafrost. It's just not economical. You're burning so many calories. Your supply lines are probably fucking kind of fucked. Supplies in general are fucked. So you have to think about these like tinier kind of details. But yeah, we'll go on to about Bangalores. So Bangalores are, you've probably seen these in like, if you've ever seen like Saving Private Ryan, stuff like that, but they're long tubes of, what is it? I think it's H6 as well. Fuck. We don't really use Bangalores too much. we always kind of what's it called? Oh, never mind. It's comp B4, I guess, which I don't really know. Which I'm assuming it's a pushing charge because what it's for. But yeah, it's a green tube, and you'll see at the end of it, it'll have like a little cone screwed on to help it, because it's a cylinder, right? Having a rounded cone makes it just easier to push. But its entire point. Let me read it. Fuck. The entire point. It's the M1 A3 A2 Bangalore. Well, there's a different one, I guess, but what? No, it's the same thing. I guess there's different kits. I didn't know that. Sorry, I'm reading. Oh, yeah, but these are like about 5-foot sections. But this is explosive. It has like little explosives here and here, boosters. So, and it has a little capo for a deck cord, not deck cord, a blasting cap in here. Or you could do a Yulin. You can do I forget what it's called, like an 8. It's whatever. You do 8 wraps of a deck cord, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, or 7. No, you do 7, and it'll go off as well. But these were used for. So it's like the green tube, right? So let's say you have a wire obstacle, right? So you have a triple strand here, which is concertina wire. If you don't know, concertina wire are like the little cables. You usually see them at like the top. Most people see them at the top of like fences and stuff. It's like little razors, essentially. And it's a comparison to barbed wire, which has like little tightened barbs into it, right? But this is C wire, right? So you want to go through it, right? But you want to do it fast. So you get you get Bangalores, right? You get your team to go up here, place a Bangalore, place another Bangalore, and they're gonna be in between the pickets. So like there's gonna be stakes essentially. Stakes that are holding the barbed wire together, and you're gonna push them to the sides of those. Right? You're gonna push them through all the way. You're gonna make a V. Right? The important thing is the V. And you have them set up already, primed and stuff. And then you go. Here's your wire going all the way back. Then boom, it goes off. So what they've done, they've pushed the wire to the sides and blown up whatever's in the middle. They've probably like destroyed it, honestly, or like made it's fucked off, okay? It's gone. And now you've made a hole, a path through an obstacle, a wire obstacle, and you can proceed through your troop movement. And it's probably got rid of any, there's booby traps, landmines, I don't know, other shit. It's gone through. So that's what the Bangalore is essentially for. It's pretty cool. You can make improvised ones. We usually do. Which you get 2 pickets. There's like military standard pickets, which is like an iron stake. Again, you get 2 of them. And they have like a little U. So here's the front view of this. They're kind of like that. And then you fill this entire area on both of them with C4, the entire length. They're probably 8 feet long. 8 or 7 feet. They're about, and then you fill that with C4, and you can do the same thing, and you do the same idea, right? And that's an improvised Bangalore. That's what we use the most. Here it talks about a SLAM, DM4 selectable light weight attack munitions. Yeah, SLAM. You see these in like I've only ever seen them in like Half-Life, but they're like the little circle things. But I don't think we use these anymore. I've never seen these. But yeah, I guess they're like very advanced motion. They have like different options and stuff, motion sensors and stuff. Yeah, essentially like that. Some shit like that. But you don't use them anymore, that I know of, or they're too expensive to use, which I bet is part of the thing. Yeah, it seems like a lot of options to them. And then there's like a kit to like make a hole, a trench, a fighting position, quote unquote, with explosives. But yeah, apparently they have a layer of asphalt in the deck cord. I didn't read this. What the fuck? That's kind of cool. Blasting caps. Oh yeah, so blasting caps are like the main thing you use to set off explosives. So they're like little silver tubes. That's a non-electric one. That's what I've always used. So they're probably big as my hand. They're probably a little less thick than this. And what I've been trained always, right? Because this is the most explosive thing you're gonna ever like actually hold and manipulate. I was told to carry them like this, right? With my last two fingers. So if this were to ever actually go off in my hand, I probably only lose these two fingers, and I can still shoot with my other hand, right? And usually, well, when I was training, we always had them, when we were using them, we always had them under sandbags in case they went off or something, right? And, we wouldn't, have some crazy, stupid shit happen. But yeah, you're holding them like this. You connect them. Here's actually the connector. They'll fit into, stop. Yeah, they'll fit into here. It'll focus. They'll fit into this little hole all the way through, and then you put your deck cord on top of it. I think, yeah, you use these. These are what you use, right? You have your blasting cap from your shock tube. The shock tube sets off a blasting cap. And you have your deck cord set up onto this. Well, you like wrap it together to make sure it goes off. And you put it in here, and then you close this, lock it in. Explosives. This is dangerous explosives, yeah. And then it's together and make sure it goes off. But yeah, that's like the kind of one that's kind of sketchy. And then there's like boosters, but that's if you're like making really, really long ones. I've never used a booster. Yeah, they also have like cool clips that makes it a lot easier, because usually they teach you how to tie stuff, how to tie the deck cord together. That's what you usually learn. But they come with clips, so you can just like clip them onto each other, and like they'll probably go off of that like that. It's perfectly fine. But they always, oh, you gotta learn in case you don't have it. Blah 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 blah. You used to well, I don't know if you still do it, but you still have to learn like how to attach them together and use like a little pincer to crimp them together. But we don't do that, so that's really how blasting caps work. How they used to go, yeah. But nowadays, I don't know. I haven't touched a blasting cap in a while, because they mainly want like the NCOs to handle that, and not like anyone, yada yada. So I think let's talk about priming systems. Single prime, we're not gonna give a shit about that. But so there's like there's what I essentially know. There's a line main and a ring main. So let's try an example. So you have whatever your explosives, right? Explosive. You have them like a series, like they're gonna go off, right? So you need them all to go off at the same time, ideally. So you can single prime them. So you're always gonna, how do I explain this? The way this explains this to read, it's weird. You'll have, we'll just do dual prime, because there's no point. Because single prime is essentially just having them all connected and having two different MDIs detonate all of them, right? In case this one doesn't work, use this one. But I don't like that. That's not how I've ever done it. So we'll do a line main, right? So you have your lines, boom, boom. I'll do it how the book shows it. Well, this training thing. And then you have your MDI, right? So your initiators, right? And these are both the lines. This is all det chord, right? So your charges. This is kind of dumb way. If you're gonna do it like that, you don't do it like this. We'll just do one row of stuff. Your MDI. Right? So you have two, this is alignment, right? So you have that, your explosives, two lines parallel to each other. And then you're gonna do crossovers. So you're gonna connect these together with like whatever way, clips, tie them, doesn't fucking matter. And then you're gonna do it over here too. I'll just do one, right? And then now you've primed this, connected to this, connect this one to this, connect it to this, and then connect it to this, right? So, boom, you hit this one, shoom, hits this, boom, sets off this, and this is happening instantaneously, essentially. I mean, it is. It's going to. It's like in half a second, not even half a second, like a millisecond. But that goes off. If this didn't go off, it'll go off as well. Remember, this is shock tube, so it's different. So it's not the same. So you don't have to be scared of like this going off and setting off this one. It's not gonna, because it's a shock tube. The tube isn't gonna explode. And yeah, boom, boom. That's a line made. So now, what I always like to do, it's usually better in like training environments. A ring main. Why is he showing a ring main? This is a weird. Whatever. So it's a ring, and then another ring of det chord, right? You have your crossover, boom, crossover. Because you remember, you always want everything to go off, like without like an issue. Your MDI. Your MDI, you know, and then your charges, right? And then they're connected to one, they're connected to the other one, connected to one, the other one. And then again, and this is different because it's a ring, but I think it's more versatile because, you know, I could attach other ones here and you can put them in series, or like, it just allows more flexibility if they're not like in straight lines and stuff. But the important thing here, you always gotta remember, you want these are called branch lines. These are branch lines, right? Because they're like branches, right? Like a tree. These have to be the same distance. For no matter how many charges you have, they have to be the same distance, both of them, to each whatever ring main, line main, to the main explosive det chord. Because you don't want one of them to go slightly faster than the other, because they might cause a secondary tremor. It might not explode the way you want it to explode, right? Because sometimes, ideally, you want them to go off, but sometimes you want them to like go off in a staggered pattern, and that's when you manipulate the distances to adjust those timings. But these are usually always going to be the same distance, so you actually have to verify that. So it doesn't fuck up how it goes. Because if it explodes too much, it might cause something, you know, explode something, cut this one, and then, oh, this one's not cutting, this one's not exploding anymore. In that fraction. But, you know, it's all just safety things to make sure shit doesn't fuck up. So, as I'm scrolling through, I think I've done this before. I think it's interesting for steel cutting charges, as I give an example before. So let's have a gainer. It's a little math, but We're not actually going to do any math. I think it's just the placement of them. So you have your I-beam, right, which is like a traditional. I mean, I think it's the only way you like do steel and shit. But essentially like that, right? I fucked it up. But yeah, and you place your charges inside. What's this called? This is called something like these. These are the something. I used to know what they're called. The flanges. These are the flanges, right? These are the flanges. So you're gonna need those You're gonna need these measurements, the measurements of this, and then you can figure out this, right? But yeah, you're gonna be placing the charges here, on this side, and then on the opposite side, like it's gonna be a mirror, right? Here's your thing. Here's where you're intended to cut. You place your blocks, let's say C4, right? You're gonna place them up here, and then like along the wall, right? You'll make a little C with the explosive on this side, and then you'll do the same thing on the other side, right? This is behind, right? So from the above view, here's your C, and then here's your C, right? Because you want, when this to go off, it's gonna push this way, and this goes off, it's gonna push that way, cutting it right there. That's the idea of this placement. And you'll do it along every I-beam or truss of usually bridges. That's usually what I think of about steel cutting charges. And we can talk about the formula to use to figure this out. So it's P for TNT, and then 3/8 A. Wait, what? Oh, I guess you could also, there's also a table for it, so you don't have to do the math. But fuck it, right? So this is the pounds of TNT. Every with all the calculations, it's always going to be in TNT because they're all made for TNT. And then you have to convert them into like C4 or whatever. But there's like tables for that. I think the ratio is like, for every pound of, I think you have to use the R factor. For every pound of TNT, you have to multiply it by, or divide it. Fuck. I think you divide it by the R factor. I don't remember. But yeah. And then this is the area, the cross section. The cross-sectional area of the thing in square inches for a circular target. So you're gonna pretend it's a circle, I think, if I'm reading this right. I haven't done this in a bit. Now that I look at this, look, when I was in training, they the math was in the books, but I never did it because that's always like, oh, you'll learn it later. They'll teach you later. And I just learned about the placements. Like the test for this part, I was like, where do you place this block? And where do you place the other block? And I just like put them there. You made the C's with like little wooden blocks to show like your C4. And boom, you pass next. That's all it was. I remember it was in the woods because they had like the little I-beam. And they had to do for beams, right? For a beam, you have to put 2 blocks on the sides, and that was it. You literally crouched onto like a little like concrete block, put your little blocks on the side, you passed. It was kind of dumb. But yeah. Oh, you can cut chains. Look, we can do this together. So for chains, apparently, if you want to cut a chain, like you just like fill the little crevice with explosives, and you put like your det cord inside of it. You set it off. That's kind of cool. I guess if you have like, you can cut off a little block of C4, shove it in there, put your dead cord in it, boom, or like a time fuse or whatever. There's also time fuses. I don't know if I talked about that, but it's just like, it's essentially your it'll replace your shock tube in the chain of explosives, and you burn it, and it's supposed to burn at a certain rate, what it's rated for, but you always have to test it because it might not be produced correctly. So you burn it, how much you time it, you burn it like an inch, and then you do the math. Like, okay, this is burned for this many. It burns. It takes this long to burn this long for this far, and then you can set it off, burn it. You go burning, and you like let it burn, and you run away for whatever you need to do. But yeah, that's kind of cool. There's little ribbon charges, but that's like, what else was I talking about? It's just like the sheets of C4. You make the C on the I-beam, cut it, and then you set it up. It's like the same shit. And then you can, like, if you want to cut pipes and stuff, I think it's a pipe. What is this? Diamond charge. The stress wave method employs the destructive effect of two colliding shock waves. The simultaneous detonation of the charge from opposing ends produces the shock wave. The diamond charge is used on high carbon or alloy steel bars that are up to 8 inches in diameter. The dimensions, placements, and priming are determined as follows. For an example, calculations on steel cutting charges for high carbon, blah, blah, blah. Oh, so I guess, yeah, if you want to cut high carbon alloy steel bars, you can do this. So, like, as I was talking about before, that's what they're using. You just, like, make a little thing. And then, you know, on the other side too. So I guess I don't know how to think about it. I guess the shockwave from both of these. No, I guess it'll cause a shockwave inside cutting this, I think. Well, yeah. There's also breaching charges. Oh, something I didn't discuss. I think the last thing we'll discuss is tamping. It's just a principle in explosives in general. So tamping is, so let's go back to the crater charge I discussed a little bit. Right, you made the hole, and now you have your big 40-pound crater charge in there, your H6 one. Right, and now you want this to blow the Earth away from here, right? But if we leave this uncovered, a lot of energy is going to escape upwards into nothing, right? We don't want that. So we're going to tamp it. So in turn, we're going to fill it up with earth, right? We're going to kind of bury it back, right? We want everything to be buried as much as possible because that'll increase the explosiveness factor, the amount of energy that travels into the sides, and that doesn't go up as much. All right. So it's always important to, whenever possible, whenever needed, to tamp your explosives. So they have a really nice chart here. They have like a ratio tamping factor, is what they're calling it. So here's your explosive charge, and then here's your circle. It's gonna detonate. Here's your entry. So you're in your little block of like, this is everything you're gonna cut, right? And then you tamped it, so it's all covered, good. And this is the radius. It's gonna explode, quote unquote, and this gets a factor of 1, so it's good. But I guess this is if you filled it back with like the same material, right? So it's like you've essentially embedded it inside the mass. So now, oh wait, no. So this is so bad. I'm reading this differently. Also, these are giving different methods. Oh, okay. So like, if you want to do one underground, you can do this. So you want to hit this wall, right? You bury your explosive here. This is still your main target, right? Here's your explosive, and then here's the entry, here's the fill. So this is like the rock, gravel, and sand and stuff, whatever. And then you fill this. It'll still explode into your target, right? But not as much. Maybe this is like concrete and it's a lot harder to get into, or steel, or it's like a bunker, right? Concrete, yeah. So you can still go to the side of it, fill it in, and it'll still achieve a similar factor. But obviously, you're only getting half the radius of energy being used, if that makes sense. That also will get you a 1, right? And you can do the same thing with water, right? Replace this with water, put it underground, same fucking thing. But let's say now it's something above ground. You can place your explosive here. Make sure there's as much contact. It matters a lot as contact with the surface you want to destroy. You can elevate it, like with a little platform. Make sure, so it's still. This is a lot of energy is gonna still waste, but this will get you like a 1.8, and I think the higher numbers, the less effective it's gonna be. And then it seems, but that's, and now with the water one again, shallow water will also negatively affect it. So if like the water line's here, that's bad. If it's completely like encased in water, or it's deep in water, that's really good. The real last thing I want to talk about is created. We'll talk about making craters and crater charges. So we know about craters and stuff, but let's talk about the actual principles on them. So you have a road, right? It's usually roads, but and let's say enemy tanks can drive on them, right? Little squirrel tank, and we don't want them to do that anymore. So we're gonna employ counter mobility, right? We're gonna prevent their movement by making a big, we're gonna make a big fucking hole in it. We're gonna destroy all of this, and now it's a pit, right? And now once the tanks can't drive over it, or they'll like fall in, and it'll be difficult for them to fall out. Or even if they get stuck in there, now the entire point of vehicles, right, is that they can move, right? Now this tank, it's what they called, if it's truly stuck, it's a mobility kill. So now this tank can move its turret probably, but it can't move now. So it's just emplaced. It's an emplacement weapon now. It's fucking useless for its main purpose, to move, which makes it really easy to hit it with an artillery strike. Boom, 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 destroyed and gone. Or you have anti-tank weapons like javelins, other shit. Boom, 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 destroyed, right? And for example, I see it a lot in Ukraine. They get stuck in these pits, and now they can't recover it, so the troops have to abandon it and get out, because it might be like in a no man's land kind of area where everyone's watching it, and it's very dangerous to go out, get their dozer to like pull it out and stuff. And now to send out a team to go build like a bridge or something over it and or fill it in, that still takes time. Their times they're out in the open, most likely. And you may ask, oh, why can't they just drive around it then? Like, usually another principle of obstacles, any obstacle, why obstacles, these kind of like earth barrier obstacles, they're complex. So there's multiple working together in tangent. This area might be an open field filled with landmines, that they can't see, or they're just covering the road, the fields on the sides, and they've left the road open because they're using it, or to entice the enemy to use it, right? It's filled with land. They're not like this, but like there's usually patterns and stuff, but it's filled, right? So they drive off to the side, boom, hit a landmine. Now they're actually fucking dead. Yeah, boom, another one, boom, and they're gonna die. And now that's another whole ordeal to go get rid of those. So, right, that's the the power of just big holes. Those are tanks like greatest enemies, especially because for tanks, like genuinely a tank, it's very hard for them to see if they're all, as they call it, buttoned up. Like if everyone's inside with their like hatches down, the only person that can see is probably the driver, or the commander, whatever the fuck, and he can probably see like this much. Like this much if they don't have like fancy sensors and all that stuff. They probably can't see. And for them, they might not even see that this is down. So boom. That's why they need usually like forward elements to like scout out the route they're gonna go and stuff. And this is a big obstacle for them because the tank, what the tank do? They're stuck in this on this like middle road with two little things, probably in the field or something. Like, oh, that sucks. But yeah, that's a crater. Very, very useful, and it's very easy. You put some explosives down, you boom, blow it up, and they can't do anything about it. It's hard for them to fix it. So let's talk about how to set this up. So you're gonna need, let's say, you want to do a 36. We'll do like 36-foot cut, right, crater. So you go boom. Usually you're always gonna do these kinds of things diagonally because it makes it harder to fix in the future, or like for the enemy to try to fix, because I don't actually know why, but it'll be harder, right? So you got one hole, and then that's 5 feet apart. You have another hole, another hole, and another hole. Actually, make this longer. So let's say, fuck it, we'll do another hole. So these are your holes, right? But they're gonna be filled with your explosives, right? For these ones, for the hasty one, Doctrine says they want 50 pounds. So it's gonna be your 40-pound one, and then you'll have to make up the other 10 pounds with, I don't know, like a improvised TNT one, or in C4. So you're probably gonna put like a fuck ton of the C4s together, tape them together, and just chuck them in the hole. With your 40-pound, because they'll all go off anyways. And then off on the sides, you're gonna have 8-inch blowouts. So this one is gonna blow out probably 8 inches over here, right? So these are all 5 feet apart, right? And then here's your other 8-inch blowout. And then these are probably gonna be the holes. They're gonna probably be under about 5. They want 5 feet minimum. So it just depends on how you want your crater, because it dictates like the angle and the slope of the crater it's gonna make, and that matters because if you know what kinds of vehicles the enemies are employing, they have like standardized metrics. Like this vehicle can only drive this slope, this fast, or it'll take it longer. It'll struggle on this higher inclinations. Like all vehicles have limitations, right? So you manipulate that, but 5 feet minimum. And then there's a formula to figure out how many holes you need, but it's kind of dumb, honestly. But yeah, that's essentially, you set it off, boom, 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 you get your crater. That's essentially the formation you want them. You can also just do it on the ground, stuff like that. You can use it for ditches, stuff like that. There's different, there's relief face craters, other stuff. Ditching, there's different methods for that. Yeah, and that's just a little bit of what I have. Maybe I'll talk more about it later, but yeah, this is just, I was reading through it, and I was like, oh, I remember this. I was like, oh, I could use this as an excuse to make another video, because I've been meaning to, but I've just been lazy. And I have a lot of ideas, but I just need to sit down and do them. Maybe I'll make another one. But I always just do it like the week before drill, or like the week of drill. I always like, oh, let me make something. So like to force me to do it. Yeah. That's all I got for you. Bye bye.